Hello there, and welcome to the tour of the Apprentice class Raider, the 12th vehicle in my Wimpomania line of vehicles. My name is Wimpoman, and I am the Chief Designer, Chief Builder, Chief Architect, and of course Chief Dumbass behind the Apprentice class update project. So, as I say, this is an updated vehicle, so before I take you around the features of the new vehicle, I'm first going to show you the original vehicle. And you will probably notice right away that it looks quite a lot different from the updated one. Because here it is over here. Yes, I sort of tried to do some faux turrets. So this is the original Apprentice. So those of you who aren't familiar with my builds, this was a combat SV variant of the rookie hover tank, which itself was a hover tank variant of the original Initiate class shuttle. So I built that, and then I thought the shape looked nice to be a bit of a fast attack and recon tank. Those of you who have seen my video where I tore the new Striker, which itself is an update of the LARP, will know what I'm talking about. If you don't, feel free to go watch those videos. Or one video, yeah. So, there we go. That was this turned into an SV, and I mean, obviously, some of the turrets and weapons have to change, because obviously there are some turrets on there that aren't available for SVs. So there we go. So this was built before the game was fully released, so pre 1.0. As a result of that, there was no such thing as shields, no such thing as weights and volumes, and no such thing as CPU. What I referred to then as a Raider was simply a civilian ground attack ship. I decided that should be tweaked slightly, and the tweak resulted in the new ship, the updated ship, needing to be a lot bigger. And I will talk about that now when I go into the next segment, which is going to be the updated Apprentice's role and task equipment. Okay, so its role as a Raider is to attack enemy POIs and then bring back some of the loot, or hopefully most of the loot that you find within. Now, in order to facilitate that task, it is of course heavily armed, mostly fixed weapons. So turret-wise, it only has 4, those 2 on top and the 2 under the chin. But fixed weapon-wise, let's get them out, why not? Lots and lots and lots and lots of guns, to misquote Neo or John Wick. So there we go. Oh, and also it has a 32k SU cargo container, which is actually in this wider bit in the middle. It's in there to bring back the loot, and that's what it uses to facilitate that task. Now, as I say in the description, assuming I remember to write it, because actually I'm recording this before I do the workshop description, what makes it perfect for civilians to use against pirates to get their stuff back, unfortunately also makes it perfect for the pirates to have raided you with in the first place. But there we go. Right, that's going to be the end of that segment. So the next segment is going to be its propulsion, handling, and lift capacity. Okie dokie, its propulsion, starting with its forward thrust, as I usually do, is 4 medium jet thrusters, 2 in the backs of each thruster nacelle. Braking and reverse, it has 2 medium jet thrusters and 4 large tier 2s. Thrusters, 2 in each thruster nacelle. There we go. Laterally, it has 1 of the medium jet thrusters. It also has 9 large tier 2 thrusters, and then and also one medium tier 2. I unfortunately I couldn't get that one to be a large because of where the ventilators are inside, and I did think about moving the ventilators, but CPU was becoming a bit of an issue, so I thought, meh, you'll probably get an extra, what, quarter of a degree in your... So I was like, yeah, whatever, medium will do. Right, so Descent, these are all medium tier 2s. It has 24 of them, 4 in the tops of each nacelle, 4 amidships, and also 4 at the front, just on the inside of the forward pod connection points there. Lift, it has 4 medium jet thrusters on by default, and then 8 medium tier 2 thrusters. On top of that, max lift, another 2 medium jet thrusters. I haven't... Hang on, let me sort the time. Sometimes I remember, sometimes I forget. So, also important to point out, it has no RCSs, but it does have a warp drive. Right, handling. So its mobility, starting with its maneuverability. It'll accelerate forwards. This is max lift off, by the way. It'll accelerate forwards at 55 meters per second squared. It'll do roughly the same reverse, lateral, and down. So 37 reverse, 38 lateral, and 36 descent. And then ascent is 67 meters per second squared with max lift off. With max lift on, it goes from 67 to 94. Then its agility, its yaw, is 39 degrees per second. Pitch is 59 and roll is 61. And with max lift on, the pitch and roll will change from 59 to 60 and from 61 to 66. So not a great deal, but never mind. Right, let's give it a quick test fly. I apparently can be bothered today. Let's turn pilot mode on. And this is how she flies. Not too bad for a chunky girl, in my opinion. Oh, I rolled too much. So there you go, that's how it handles with pilot mode on. Okay, I'm going to land back at the flat here-ish, and then it'll be time to talk about the lift. Righto, she's back down on the ground. Lift then. So with max lift off, she can operate in up to 6.8 G. Of course, dry weight, so once you've put stuff in it, that will of course decrease. And with max lift on, she can lift 365 tons in 4G, and she weighs 151, which means she can lift a further, and I can't be bothered to do the maths on the fly, 214 tons. Right, that'll be the end of that segment. So the next segment is going to be its power, fuel, and air. So like usual with my tours, I'm going to tell you about this stuff now and then show you where it is later on in the interior layout segment. So power, she has 13 large generators in 3 separate locations, and she needs roughly about 6. So you've got some leeway to maybe take some damage. Fuel then, she has a pentaxid tank. She also has 11 large fuel tanks. Now that's not as many as I would normally put in my vehicles, especially ones of this size, but she's not really a long range hauler. So the idea is you're only really supposed to be in it for short periods, as long as it takes you to attack a POI, for example. Right, so air, then we have 7 O2 tanks, again not as many as usual, 4 vents and only 2 compartments, the airlock and the cockpit/cabin at the front. Right, that'll be the end of that segment. So the next segment is going to be her weapons, defences and construction. Right then, weapons. As I said earlier, she has 4 Gatling turrets, 2 on top, 1 facing rearwards, and also 2 under the chin to help you attack or kill the ground troops of whatever POI you're attacking, assuming it's on the ground, of course. The turrets themselves are set to what I consider my anti-personnel configuration, so they'll attack ground troops and predators and also drones. Now I know drones doesn't really count as anti-personnel, but you can't separate those. Whatever. Then for its fixed weapons, we have 3 Gatling guns on the chin to help you kill any drones or any troops that your turrets are being too dopey to kill. On top we have 3 railguns. I'm going to get into the seat for a minute because I've set up the third person camera in such a way that you can use it to snipe. So if you're hiding behind a hill attacking a ground base, you can use this camera view, and it's just the third person view moved forwards and down so that it's now right above the middle railgun. Then we move on to the weapons pods on the pod connection points. So these are the same connection points and pods that you will find on my beginner and beginner class ships. Let's find one with the exact things. Explorer, there we go. Oh, funny enough, it's the Raider that has these pods on the side. Not that you can really see in the thumbnail, but whatever. Is it just those 2? Oh, so the next ship along, which is still work in progress, so this was actually the Innovator class, was about to be the 10th. And then I decided it would make more sense to move it to 13 and have these smaller ones in front of it, sort of. But that also has the same pods and pod connection points. So, oh, and in case you care, actually, the railguns were originally in a 5th pod. So when I first built this, the turret was actually down here at the front, and then sunk into the hull was another connection point. It was sunk in by 1 block, so that the pod then sat roughly flush with the hull. And then the railguns were sticking up out here, and it just looked stupid because they were quite high up. I don't know if you can use your mind's eye to switch these around. If you imagine this on top of that, so exactly where the turret is, yeah, it looked weird. So a little bit of history-ish. So, in each of the forward pods, we have 2 dumbfire rocket launchers and a plasma cannon. Yeah. And then each of the rear pods, we have 2 pulse lasers and another plasma cannon. So that means that this ship has the maximum allowed pulse lasers, the maximum allowed plasma cannons, and the maximum allowed rocket launchers. I think it's 1 short, isn't it? I think you can only have 4 railguns. Will it tell me here? Maximum 4, yeah. Obviously, it's only half of what you're allowed for Gatling guns, but there you go. And obviously, you're allowed 6 Gatling turrets. Of course, I mean, if you can get an advanced core in here, feel free to chuck on a few more weapons on it if you can find a space. So that's its weapons then. Defences, it of course has a shield, and it does have some armour. But that's going to be better demonstrated when I go over there and show you its construction. So let's go over here now. This is an unpainted version. Of course, I call it that, but it is actually painted. I changed the colour of the steel blocks so that they're... Oh, and the carbon composite, so that they're easier to identify. She does have a structural frame that runs through the ship. Now, much like the, as I showed you just now, the beginner and the beginner, these two, the hull of this is actually 2 blocks thick. They're basically all the way around. I don't know if I can get you a good example. So here-ish. So there are some exceptions, like where I wanted to put these turrets. However, you probably will notice that there's some hardened steel in here. Some hardened steel for armour at the front as well, in front of the cockpit, to help you take shots so that you're not killed instantly. There is also a small amount in here, so we're going to actually see where stuff is now, but that's okay. So the stern is 2 blocks of steel thick, because that's how thick most of the hull is. And then we have an extra block of lag shot armour in steel. And obviously, like I said, you can see bits of the structural frame running through the ship. Then we have the generators, then some more lag shot. Then we have fuel separated through the middle. I hope that's enough to stop them exploding each other, but they're only surrounded by carbon composite, as you can probably tell by the white hexagonal that matches the stuff on the outside. And then forward of that we have the warp drive and the shield generator, as I call it, the polarized hull shield, and this is also surrounded on all sides by carbon composite. The shield is, I mean, and the warp drive is more steel. Aye, so there we go. That's what she's made of, and shush, and stuff. Obviously, if you want to upgrade some, you can. Maybe you want to protect these thrusters a bit more. I did originally build this out of hardened steel, but it made no sense that that was hardened steel, but this wasn't. So I downgraded it. Aye, so there we go. I think... Oh, do you want to have a quick look at the bulkheads? They're carbon composite ore devices. And obviously the deck plating is just the outer hull. Right, there we go. I think that's a good enough look, I would say, probably. So, moving on now then to the next segment, which is going to be its resource gathering, production and storage. Resource gathering, she has none. Production, she does have a single constructor. If things go badly in this, I want you to have something to try and get you back on your feet with. You know, if you take so much damage that you crash on the other side of a hill, at least you got something to try and make something with. Or, for example, you run out of ammunition, you might be able to make some more in the constructor. Then storage. So, as I said earlier, it does have a 32,000 SU cargo container in this middle bit here, which is one of the things that makes a Raider, is to have a large amount of storage. It does also have 2,750 cargo containers in the cabin behind the cockpit. Ammo, she has 2 1,000 SU ammo containers in the cockpit / cabin area, and then each weapon pod also has a 734 ammo container. Of course, you can put whatever ammo in each you like, but I sort of did that because it's sort of the role play, the lore, the realism of having the ammo that the weapons use behind the weapons. Right, what else? So she has a total of 13 cargo boxes of various sizes, 2 mini fridges, and finally 4 armor lockers. Right, so that's the end of that segment. So the next segment is going to be its interior layout and any remaining devices. As usual, I'm going to start with the any remaining devices on the outside before I go inside. Landing gear, also some headlights. So these point diagonally down. They point, I'm pretty sure, straight forward. Can I tell? Yeah, straight forward. But also, I've stuck a pair of the little lights as well that are set to spotlight mode, and they point forward too. Okay, speaking of lights, let's talk about the flight regulation lighting that it comes with. Of course, it's compliant, as is usual with all of my builds. Of course, I'm compliant with myself, technically, but whatever. So we'll start with the orientation lights. We have some illuminated orientation panels dotted around the ship. Like the nav lights, we have red on the port side, white on the stern, and green on the starboard. Unlike the nav lights, we also have yellow on the ventral side. And these are its formation lights that it uses to fly in formation with other craft, especially in low visibility. Then we have the navigation lights. Again, red on the port, white on the stern, and green on the starboard. I will show you those turned on later when I get to the signals bit. Then we have its anti-collision lights. Like usual, we have anti-collision beacons that come on automatically with the thrusters, assuming, of course, that you use the main propulsion device group. And I will cover this again later on, but I think that's one there, and then there's one there, a match one on the other side, and then one on the top of each their thruster nacelle. Those are red. And then on the bottom we have yellow ones there that are also painted yellow there. Okay, so they, like I said, they flash automatically when the thrusters are on, and the purpose of that is to let any observer know that the ship could move at any moment. And then we have the flight strobes. These are the bright white flashing ones you see on the wingtips of planes. There's one there, another one there, matching on the other side, and I'm pretty sure I've done one here as well. Like the last ship, actually, the 11th, which I think was the Frontiersman. I can't remember which way round they are, but when I turn them on later on, obviously, it'll become obvious, obviously. And finally, we have some running lights. And these the flight strobes are supposed to help observers visually acquire the ship from a distance. As I always say, that doesn't translate necessarily well into the game, because lights in the game don't work quite as well as real life. But you can quite often see the ship before the lights on the ship. And they're running lights. So these are automatically on, and they let any observer know that the ship is powered, especially you when you've parked it on your base or in your docking bay and you've forgotten to turn it off. And in case you care, I will tell you at the end in the other info bit how to deal with my blinkies if you don't like them. Oh, right. So we have some name and registry displays dotted around. Let's do the name displays first. So generally speaking, it should be fairly obvious which LCD projector projects what display. You might not necessarily figure out straight away that this one down here is projected by that one rather than that one until you see that's there and there is no other LCD projector to project that one. So that one would have to be that one because that one's too far away. I'm sure you can figure this stuff out. Shush you! So, let's go around the back actually, because then I won't be in a sensor field. So, of course, you can change the name to be whatever you like. Something that means something to you. By all means, feel free to just write there WM12 Apprentice class or whatever. It's up to you. In case you care, ISSV stands for Intrastar System Vehicle, which is a vehicle that travels internally to a star system, so between planets within the same star system. Right, registries. We have the main registry and the full registry. So the full registry includes the main registry. The full registry is included on a class and registry display. So here you can see what class it is. In case you care, I will go through this real quick. Wimpo Manufacturing, Civilian Combat Craft Raider, Wimpomania, the 12th vehicle in the Wimpomania line. And then this number would be the number of which yours is. So what I would suggest, if you can be bothered, is look how many people have subscribed to this on the workshop and then add one. And assuming you were the last one to subscribe, that should be your number. Of course, you add one because I have one and I'm not subscribed, because you don't subscribe to your own stuff. Of course, if you can't be bothered to do that, by all means feel free to leave it as the number symbols, or put a number there that means something to you, your date of birth, your house number, your PIN for your debit card. No one's going to know or care. I do always say, although it's not, should it apply to this one? Maybe it should. So I was going to say the ISSV Apprentice 001 would be mine. I was debating whether it would be in this case, because it's an updated vehicle, but it's not new. But it kind of is. But it kind of isn't, even though it is. But it's not. But yeah, of course. So as I always say, technically that would be mine. The ISSV Apprentice 001. No one's going to know or care if you do name it that. Feel free. Right, I think that's everything on the outside. Now there is stuff to fly into the bowels to show you first, and I'm going to start up here. So, in this little lump midships in the middle, we have the core, the wireless connector, and the detector. Back here is some O2, and then we already had a look at this in the unpainted one over there, but in the stern we have some generators, 5 of them. Those of you who are good at maths will be able to tell that I said there were 13, so there are 8 elsewhere. Oh, I wonder where they might be. We can still see them in here. So there you go, there's where the others are. So there's 2 in the nacelle struts, and then 2 in each nacelle as well. Can we get a good view? It's just thrusters everywhere, isn't it? Gubbins. There, oh, down here, is that a better view? There you go, there's a better view-ish. Apart from the lag shot armor. In case you don't know what lag shot armor is, I'll try and explain it quickly. I don't know if it's such an issue anymore, but sometimes you would get lag in the game, just as the enemy shot is about to hit you. The game would consider the shot to have travelled still, but has not hit you because of the lag. So it'll now think the shot is here, and it will keep going until it hits, until it goes through air, as it were. So if this was solid, it might find a generator or the core block. So that's why some of us put lag shot armor in our ships. It's so that shots that lag through the hull then hit something before they hit something important, if that makes sense. Right, so yeah, I showed you those. So there's the fuel, 2 banks of I don't know, 5, yeah, and then 1 in the middle that is accessible from down here, in case you want to interact manually with portions of the ship. Pentaxid tank is the next one forward. And you can also access some O2 tanks here through the white shutter. Also, as I said earlier, the hull shield and the warp drive is also in the back, along with some armor. And then from that bulkhead, if you can call it, yeah, I suppose it still would be a bulkhead, wouldn't it? So from that block forward, excluding that block, is the container extensions for the 32 KSU cargo container. That's everything to show you in the bowels. Ramp, that light, that light, that light, and that light. Okay, it was just my angle to it. It didn't look on. So those devices I just showed you were all on that motion sensor, including the door. The door on this one opens automatically. We come into the airlock where we have the devices you can see here, including some cargo boxes for armor boosts and extra O2 and hand tools and small arms ammo and that kind of stuff. The lights in here are on that motion sensor. This door covers up this stuff, one of the generators, the container controller, and some cargo boxes. As I said, 32K in there. Moving forward, this door is automatic. I'm going to look up there to prove it. There we go. That motion sensor just there is the one that did it. On the right hand side in the cabin, fridge, one of the two 750 cargo containers and the constructor. On the other side is the same except not a constructor, just a couple of cargo boxes instead. Armor locker, cargo box, ammo container, one of the 1000 SU1s. There's the other one. And then we have the seats. It's 3-person. These two are supposed to be the gunners for these two turrets down here under the chin is the idea. And of course you get the usual array of heads-up displays in my cockpits, which I'm going to use to transition on to the next segment, which is its shortcuts and its signals. Right then, starting with its device group shortcuts. Now, as usual, please don't auto-group. I have custom grouped my devices, and the device group shortcuts do use the custom groups to operate, so please don't. First one, of course, is main propulsion. That will turn on what I referred to earlier. I'm not in God mode, there we go. What I referred to earlier as the default thrusters, and as I said earlier, also the anti-collision beacons. So we got a good look at the yellow, the yellow ones going, and the red ones. Blink, there we go. Another one, there we go. So that's that. The next one down, of course, is max lift. That will simply turn on the additional thrusters pointing downwards that help you carry the stuff in the cargo container there. Oh, if you want to use this one, feel free. The only thing this is going to do different to those is it'll turn on all of the thrusters all at the same time, obviously, and it won't turn on the anti-collision beacons. Also, obviously, I would say. So don't worry if you want to use that one, it's fine. Next one down is weapons and shields, it should be, but for some reason you can't type an ampersand or in fact any symbols in the device group's names. I don't know why. You can over here, it makes no sense, but there you go. Of course, I'm sure you can guess what that does. The next one down is empty. In case you're wondering, the reason there are sometimes empty ones in my builds is because I generally like to keep the shortcuts in the same order, even if there's something missing. So, for example, I think this would be drills, etc., for a mining ship. So that's why it's empty. Artificial gravity. Oh, I forgot to show you the front one. You may have noticed it, but it's there, not far away from the pilot seat. And of course, artificial gravity will turn on the gravity generators. Production will, of course, turn on and off the constructor. I should have shown you this really, but now is fine. The constructor is linked to the main cargo container, the 32K one, as its input, and it'll output into this container directly below it. And then the last device group shortcut is the air vents. So I'm going to cover this in case this is the first tour of mine you've seen, but I'm going to try and do it quickly in case it isn't and you don't want to sit through it all over and over and over and over again. If we have a look at power left and we turn oxygen off, you will see that power left doesn't change because although the vents are no longer blowing air into the interior, the ventilators themselves are still powered. So if we keep watching the power left and we turn air vents off, you will see you'll save more power. So if you're in a breathable atmosphere, you can save some fuel. Okay, signal shortcuts. As usual, the top one is power save. That was a week ago now, thank you very much. So there is a display here that tells you what the what the power save will turn off. So turning the power save switch on will turn off all of the LCD projectors and screens. Actually, I don't think there are any screens in here, but whatever. It'll also turn off all of the motion sensors and the Wi-Fi at there. And well, I suppose those count. Those are LCDs as well. Right then, so the next one down then is unassigned, but the next one down that is assigned is Gatling guns and turrets. So you can flick that switch to turn on just these and the turrets in case all you're fighting is a drone or two, or a lizard mule or something, a velociraptor. You don't want to waste lots of power turning on all of the weapons and the shields. I've given you that option. Next two down are the regulation lighting. We have the nav lights. So as I said earlier, red on the port, too far, green on the starboard, and white on the stern. So there we go, we figured out which way round they are. And the flight strobes, bright white, flashy, flashy, as they said, like you would see on the wingtips of planes. Then we have the headlights. Now, as I keep saying, but just in case, again, this is the first tour of mine you've seen, I do know that you can sit in the seat and use your keyboard shortcut, which for me is L for Lima. I'm pretty sure that's the default. But the reason I've given you a switch as well is so that if you park and accidentally leave them on, get out the ship, and then you notice when you're over here, I wanted to give you a way to turn them back off again without having to go back into the cockpit seat. And then the last one is close hatches. So where the O2 is that I showed you just now, and down here, these, if you open them because you're interacting with the ship or those components manually for roleplay or whatever, and then you notice when you're back in the cockpit seat that they're open, I wanted to give you a way to close them without having to get back out the cockpit seat. So there we go, that will close all of them that are open, and it will only close them, it won't open them again. Alright, that's the end of that segment. So the next segment is going to be its CPU and upgrading. So I have shown you this a couple of times. So it's a tier 4 CPU and it comes just under budget. So you've got just under 800 left over. Not much to really do anything with. In case you're skipping around in the video, oh, I forgot to point them out, but you may have seen them. In case you're skipping around in the video, there's the core. I have shown it a couple of times, but there it is. When I came into the airlock, you may have seen them. I just didn't point them out, but there are the CPU extenders in the ceiling of the airlock. Not necessarily a place that would make sense, really, but it was the best place I could find that's far enough away from anything explodey. That thruster there is, yeah, probably the closest thing to it. As you can see, one block away. And this turret is a couple of blocks away, but, right, so, since there is very little CPU left to play with left over, there's obviously not much you can do in the way of upgrading, so there isn't any upgrade path built into the ship. No free space for putting anything extra. Of course, if you do come across an advanced core, you want to slap it in, As I said, the core is under here. Feel free to dig it out and put an advanced core in it. And then you might be able to do something with the ship. I'm just not sure what. Oh, hang on. This is part of this too. There are actually 3 colours to choose from. 3 primary colours that I've included in the palette. So of course it comes in the Wimpomania blue. But it also has this Raider red. Oh, I'm not normally a fan of red, but in my opinion, that looks good. And of course it has a generic grey for those who like grey. And I have to say, that looks good as well. You know, even if I have to say so myself. Do you know, I know this is blowing my own trumpet a little bit, but this Apprentice is now one of my new... or among my favourite ships of mine that I've ever built. I love the way this thing looks. It's chunky and mean looking, and actually I'm going to use that to segment into the next and last segment, which is its other info. Because I wanted to talk a little bit about its design. So... It is a, if you squint, it's a similar design to the other Wimpomania line of ships. I wanted to do something slightly different. So, normally, the wraparound cockpit windows would angle backwards from the front. And I thought it would be interesting to angle them forwards instead. And I like it, I don't dislike it, it does look good. But then when I also combine that with, these are supposed to be the same sort of thruster nacelles that the other Wimpomania ships have, except I wanted to do it slightly diagonally. Now I know that would mean these wouldn't be flat, they would also be 22.5 degrees, but that would F up this bit here, and it would have to be a funny shape, and it wouldn't really work better. It would be worse in my opinion. So I kept it as that flat shape. But yeah, this is supposed to be the same sort of thruster on nacelle even on the other Wimpomania ships, just a diagonal one. And although I don't dislike the ship, as I said, it's now one of my favourite designs of mine, I'm not sure if it's too much of a departure from the Wimpomania line. The fact that it's a sloping forward cockpit window and a diagonal nacelle, both together might be a bit too different, but I'm obviously okay with it. There's a debate to be had, you know, and I'm just acknowledging that. Okay, so other info is going to include its damage texture. So what I normally do with my builds is I paint the whole thing in this texture that I consider to be a damage texture, and that's so that when you lose blocks in battle, that it doesn't look normal. I need that. So if you lost that block and that's what was left, it's hard to tell that that's not the way it's supposed to look, because that texture that's now exposed is just a hull texture, which is why I do this, and to me that looks like smouldering metal. Then the name, of course, being a Wimpomania ship, because I consider myself to be a noob at building, I've named all of the ships within the Wimpomania line either synonyms of newbie, someone who is new at something, or synonyms of someone who is first at something. Which of course is why you end up with names like beginner and cadet and student and freshman and initiate. No, that's not this, is it? Apprentice and initiate, obviously. So that's just a quick explanation of that. As promised, I'm going to go quickly on talk quickly on how to deal with my blinkies if you don't like them. I'm going to start with these running lights that are still flashing away. If you don't like them, they're very easy to deal with. Scroll down to the bottom and you're looking for reg lights, specifically the running lights, and you deactivate the device group, And then that's it. They will never come back on again because there is nothing that turns them on. If you don't like the anti-collision beacons that come on with the thrusters, if you're using this, I mean, as I said earlier, use this instead. But if you want to use these because you want to save power by not turning the max lift on, but you also don't like the anti-collision beacons, if they are on because you have already turned this switch on, make sure the device group is not active and then remove the shortcut. And then again, that's it. They will stay off forevermore. Of course, as I usually say, nav lights and flight strobes are easy because you just don't turn them on. One last thing to do, as I like to do in my videos, in my tour videos at least. Oh, make sure I get the right one. And that is to upload, or more accurately, hang on. There we go. I keep doing that, don't I? I press Alt and F2 instead of just F2. So here we go. Let's update. Airtight. Keep it private again so I can, as usual, do the screenshots and the description. Hooray! So there we go. That'll be the end of the tour for the Apprentice class Raider. I hope you get some use out of it, and hopefully I will see you in another video for a different build. So thank you again, and goodbye.